News Podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Darling, along with my partner, Carlo Navarro. Carlo, this is episode number 1 of the Good News Podcast.
Hey, number 1. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
man. Who would have thought that finally, after all these years, you and I actually decided to take that big leap, take the step, and do a podcast together?
It's about time, I think. It's about time. Well, a lot of things have happened, right? So, hey, I'm pumped. Episode 1's always nerve-wracking and setting the bar. But why don't we, before we dive into the podcast, what's it about? Maybe to give some context to everyone why two of us are coming together to do this, and a little bit about your background. I'll give a little bit about mine. And it's not just really two random guys doing a podcast, another podcast in the podcast world, but we have some specific, some things we really want to tackle. So maybe, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll jump in, and then let's get rocking.
Yeah, man. No, I think that's a great idea. Even in the fact, why you and me? Why are you and I here?
Yep.
How did we come together? And as far as my background, I've been in sales for almost 2 decades, working in multiple different industries, everything from the fitness industry to call centers, and in distribution, manufacturing, software, all of it. I've worked for everything from small companies to large global corporations, and have helped lead go-to-market strategy, lead generation, business development. Basically, how do we find the people that could potentially benefit, from our products, services, or solutions? And so helping create ideal customer profiles, and helping, gathering market statistics, and understanding buying personas, all these things. And, you and I got connected back in college, my freshman year of college. You and I met, and at Ball State University, chirp, 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 go Cardinals. Shout out to David Letterman. What's up? We're looking for sponsors, David, just saying. But we met, we were in the same fraternity and didn't really spend a lot of time together. You were older. I was young. But then at about 2015, almost 15 years later from when we met, we reconnected through our passion for entrepreneurship, and really seeing how we can bring value to other people through our experiences and what we know. And you and I really connect, and connecting on our faith and those types of things. And so, really, that's how we got together. And what I've always found interesting is that, Carlo, for you and I, it's always been this, I'm in sales, you've been in marketing for about, maybe a little bit longer. And we always seem to come together and want to have conversations around sales and marketing, and giving each other ideas and tips and some of these different things. And then eventually here we are today, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see the journey come this far, and it's been 7+ years now, I think.
Yep.
Since that journey started. And just a little bit about my background. And you mentioned yourself in a lot of experience in sales. I come from the marketing end, right? Over almost 2 decades now. Had my stints in sales in the beginning of my career in tech, and I've been in tech most of my career, which has been really interesting, really fun, and really up and down. The journey's been there. But the marketing side, I've been consulting with companies, being an internal marketer, a growth marketer, all within tech, from Midwest, where I'm from, in Chicago, to Silicon Valley, and some of the startups out there. And yeah, you're right. It's always been talking about our challenges within marketing and what we're trying to accomplish as our own responsibility as a marketer, as your own responsibility as a salesperson. And we've never really blended the two, which is really interesting, because there's such a big gap between marketing and sales. And as we looked around, there really wasn't this I guess you can say resource. So how do you bridge the gap between marketing and sales? Because there are some significant differences, but also we know that we have to work together. And
Yep.
so I think that's maybe a good segue to why we're doing this podcast, because what the business that we're in today, we've realized that the companies need marketing and sales to work together to accomplish the one thing that keeps companies alive is revenue. And we're in the business of helping companies generate revenue with what we're doing today. And we'll dive a little bit more maybe in other episodes about, the company that we're working with or working for together. But this whole podcast is about, I think, discovering the innovations and the inspirations and the ideas around how to tackle B2B marketing and sales and the tactics and the ideas that are involved with that. And so it's not just us talking. I think this is the first episode that we're going to hopefully bring value from our experience, but hopefully, and not hopefully, we will have and do have folks lined up that are doing the work in their own industry. They're influencers, they're entrepreneurs, they're leaders, they're change makers from every vertical. Like, you guys are going to be so surprised that it's not just going to be the guys and the women from in suits talking about B2B marketing. We're going to talk with chefs. We're going to talk with artists. We're going to talk with comedians, musicians, big brands, small brands. So I'm super pumped about it. But I think to just launch it and to start out, set the stage, we're going to talk a little bit about what we feel like the challenges are, and hopefully start to uncover tidbits of solutions, I hope.
Well, and it's so important, right? And there is no hope about it. We are going to. We are. What Carlo and I, like what you and I really, for the listeners to understand, is we also want to go on this journey with you. It's not like we're the experts. We have our own thoughts and opinions based on our experiences, but we also want to really, and we say it a lot, we want to bridge a gap. We want to bridge that gap between sales and marketing through building a community of sales and marketing people who are learning how to collaborate and work together to ultimately be able to help companies share the good news of how they serve. That's part of why we're calling this the Good News Podcast, is because good news, sales and marketing don't always have to be at odds. Good news. You can work together and collaborate to find your ideal customers that you love to work with and you love to serve, that your purpose is driven towards, and learn how to find them and connect with them and build relationships with them, and ultimately grow your sales from it. And that's a big part, because, like, look, full transparency, looking back over my career numerous times in having conversations around marketing or leads, or how are we generating inbound leads, and all of these things. I go back, you and I sent you a clip of it the other day, the Glenn Ross movie. It's a salesperson's, favorite movie almost. And in there, they're talking about these weak leads, and we got this from corporate and these marketers and blah, blah, blah. And the leads are weak. And the guys, no, the leads aren't weak. You're weak. And if I'm honest, as a salesperson for a long time, just being a street salesperson, I always felt like there was this division between the street level people who are in the action and the marketing teams that are telling us about our customers, when there was always this feeling they never knew because they weren't out with our customers. So how could they know how we truly help them, truly serve them? And so there's always been this disconnect.
Yeah. Yeah. And when do you think, from a sales perspective, when do you think it was a moment in general, I guess, when you needed to say, we should probably talk to marketing? Is it because there was a scaling, like, how do we scale problem? Or was it like, we're running out of leads on our own? What was that? What's that moment in sales? Because I think there's, and I'll talk about the moment in marketing, but I like to learn about why would you
Marketing
engage
gets
with
all the
marketing?
attention anyway, so let's talk about sales first. Just kidding. That's a
true.
joke.
It's true.
All the marketing people out there, that's a joke. I love you.
Right.
I'm a marketer at heart. I say, just trapped in a salesman's body. But so to answer your question, I think when it really hit me was I was leading a team at a company called Landtech. I was heading up our systems integration team where we were selling our packaging equipment, stretch wrappers and case erectors and case sealers to robotic integrators that were integrating our equipment into their systems that they were then selling to Cargill, Procter and Gamble, ConAgra, all the Mars Wrigley, all these huge companies, right? And we wanted to generate more interest in what we were doing with integrators and how we could communicate how we're helping bring value to the things that the lines that they're doing, right? So that it increased the potential for us to be able to build relationships with other robotic integrators where they were saying, oh, if we have this equipment in our line, the value of our line increases because they're the leader in the industry. And so,
Right.
and so as I was looking at my sales plan, as I was doing my sales planning for my team for the next year and building our objectives, we had grown from 8 million in sales to about 21 million in sales over about a 14-month period and just experiencing incredible growth. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to really plan well for my team, I need to understand how what we're doing and our goals and initiatives are also aligning with marketing goals and initiatives, and maybe see where there's some areas where they may be able to help us communicate to our customers in a better way, more outbound direct instead of indirect. A lot of marketing is oftentimes outbound and indirect. It's brand to a group of individuals. And I wanted to see how we could really be more individual to individual, more human to human. Right. And so that was always the goal. How do we build more relationships, and how can we partner with marketing to help us facilitate the right conversations with the right people? What was really interesting about it is when asking as a sales leader to be a part of the marketing planning and understanding the marketing plan and presentation, I wasn't allowed to. And it was marketing is going to do their plan. You guys do your plan. And so even within the corporate setting at that previous company, there was no collaboration. We were very siloed. But to me, it just made sense. If I'm building a plan of how we're going to grow sales, marketing is a huge part of that in how we are communicating our value to the individuals we ultimately believe we can serve. And we just, that's been most of my experiences ever since wanting to work with marketing is, hey, let me come and help be the voice of the customer and what's going on and where we're really seeing that we bring value. And marketing oftentimes has said, hey, we've already got our plan built. We already understand it. We've done our own research. We're good.
Yeah. It's interesting that it is still like that in a lot of capacities where marketing has so I guess to step back, marketing is such a general term, right? There's just so many things involved in marketing. If you look at it from a brand perspective, is different from a content perspective. Over the last 5 to 7 years, maybe 10 years, we talked about growth marketing, how that's a little bit more a little bit different than your branding, your brand marketing. But what's all interesting is that growth marketing may work a little bit more with sales, but even with current communications and conversations I've had with VPs of marketing, and I would ask them, how often do you communicate with sales? And they say, sometimes we do. And that's really interesting because you should be talking to them all the time,
right?
Because when social media, and I don't want to get too into a deep rabbit hole here, I think that where marketing now needs to talk to sales because we are continually being asked what ROI means. And the question is, what is ROI of social media? What is ROI of
Yep.
pushing out content? It's no longer likes or impressions, because at the end of the day, if the likes or impressions don't convert to something that can help build the company, or at
Then it
least,
doesn't matter.
then it doesn't matter, right? That may hurt a lot of marketers' feelings, because the metrics that they set in their minds is different than what the metrics as a whole, as a company, to set. And I feel like sales has always had that ROI. The ROI is revenue. How do we get to revenue? And so over the last few years, that's been really difficult, because as a marketer, and I've been in the boat where, hey, we're doing all these things. At the end of the day, how many leads did we receive, and what is the conversion to that to sales? Because that's how we pay the bills. So finding the balance of what's working from marketing, how does that convert to sales, is that bridge that needs to be built, right? And ROI has always been the sticking point. What's the return on investment of social media? What's the return on investment on content? What's the return on investment of this podcast? Like, why do people want to do this, right? So we're here to uncover that, I think, with a lot of people that we're going to talk to. We're going to uncover that with the things that we're experiencing right now. But honestly, I love working with you now, because it's going to answer these questions that are being asked as a former consultant marketer to brands, to B2B companies. It is the package that needs to be, put together to figure out ROI, which is, end of the day, it's sales. It's revenue.
And man, it was a partnership made in heaven, right? Like the relationship between sales and marketing should be yes and, not either or, because there's tons of companies out there, like from the packaging industry and coming from multiple different distribution and having experience in multiple different distribution industries. Some of those people have sales and marketing leaders, but they're really only sales leaders who don't truly understand marketing, or they just have sales leader and just, they freelance out their marketing, and they think it's just about content. It's just about, how does the website look? What are we posting on our company pages on social media? And the truth of the matter is, man, I wrote this down as you were talking, and it's just the reality of the situation. Big companies have been losing trust from their customers and the consumers for a long time. Long time, right?
Yep.
B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter. Companies have been losing trust and brand authority from their customers and consumers. Learning how to bring sales and marketing together, almost like as a dynamic duo, right? Batman and Robin, Superman and Wonder Woman, right? Like this is what it looks like, because I truly believe that once we start looking at sales and marketing from really something that we can do to generate relationships and conversations with the key people we want to be building relationships with, we can actually start building back and earning back a lot of that trust if we start marketing through our salespeople. And so there's a strength there in collaboration. And I think as we continue to move forward, there are industries that are and companies continuing to lose market share because they haven't figured out how to make those two departments gel and work together for the ultimate goal, which is, like you said, look, it's to serve customers, but when we serve customers, we generate revenue.
Yeah. And I had a really interesting conversation just last week with a founder of an agency here in Chicago, and I think we should have him on the podcast at some point. But the conversation came up about the resurgence of trust marketing, and that is like the perfect words for it, because by doing content that serves people in an educational format or an entertainment format, the focus is to leverage those types of distributions and content pieces to drive ultimately revenue and interest in what you're doing. And you're not specifically directly selling, but you're directly teaching and paying it forward, and you're doing things that you want to do. But then there's the difficulty when we think about that as content creators. Now we're talking about like marketing now, right? You get to a place where you just can't scale that.
Right.
And there's just numerous examples and articles around today's content creators that they get in a situation where they create content and then they're just left to feel like they have to create more content. And if they don't create more content, their audience is going to stop trusting them and start negatively commenting and asking what's going on. So that's like the blessing and the curse of being a content creator. Now, the blessing is that anyone can be a creator. I believe everyone can be. Now it's just like, how do you scale that and how do you execute that, particularly in a B2B environment where there needs to be consistency without becoming completely saturated and exhausted.
Yeah, and look at examples of like a Gary V, right? Gary V understood this, and some people can call it a hack or whatever it is. What Gary V understood was that the more value he brings to people, regardless of whether or not they choose to buy from him in that moment, the return is going to be so much better. So Gary V going out and having conversations about the things that he loves, the things he's passionate about, the way he loves to help other companies and other marketing people and other salespeople understand how to serve their customers and serve their industry. All of that stuff is sales and marketing, because by him building that presence and bringing all of that value, people want to work with him more, and it has increased. Like he's, you go from Wine Library on YouTube that everybody thought was dumb when he was showing how to pair, wine with Fruity Pebbles or strawberry Pop Tarts, right, and all these different things, right? Like being a real person, which a lot of companies forget that all of their personas that they're marketing to or trying to sales to are still just real people that are actively, most of them actively looking how to get better in their position so that they can provide for their families more, or to buy that house, or to take that dream vacation. And so Gary V just was really like, look, I'm just going to give so much value out there that people are going to come to me because they see who I am and they connect with Gary V before they connect with his brand. And that's how companies can help scale relationship building without getting content building burnout, is by leveraging the creation of purpose in their salespeople to also create content about how they serve and how these things, teaching salespeople how to use things like LinkedIn and these different tools to be able to reach their people.
Yeah, that's a whole, I think, another conversation we can have too about companies. We should talk to companies that are actually doing that and allowing their employees to use their brand and personalities in this new way of doing things, versus not allowing them to come to work as their full self and then bring their personality, bring their character.
I've experienced that.
Me too. Yeah,
right.
Of course. Yeah.
There's guys like Adam Peak, who you've met. He's called the Packaging Pastor on LinkedIn. He's the VP of sales for a pretty large packaging company out of Utah, and great organization. And I mean, Adam personifies that, right? And that company, like, they really support the content creation and using LinkedIn and stuff. And I agree. I think bringing people on there and on here and having some conversations with them about what, again, here's that word, what does that ROI look like? What type of relationships have you been able to create? What type of thought leadership has allowed you to step on stages or to be on podcasts that has helped drive the message of how you guys serve and what you're all about, and how has that increased your bottom line? Because salespeople, the challenge that we get in as salespeople, and this is full transparency mode here, right? Because look, we're just going to tell it like it is, right? On both sides, good and the bad. And for salespeople, what happens is we often get in positions where we have leaders and companies and leaders at companies that it's about the transaction, and everything is measured on the KPIs. Everything is measured based on revenue. Totally get it. But what it does is it keeps people numbered focused, and and sales leaders only see certain activity as revenue generating activity. And if it's not something that they've done in the past or how they built their business, they're oftentimes not going to be on board or open-minded to it. And so we end up, salespeople and sales leaders oftentimes are part of the biggest challenge for marketing, because there's not an immediate ROI on that activity that they can see, and they can't see the revenue from it. And so they turn their nose to it.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to those leaders, because you can ask. You can ask. So is ROI spending 70-80% of your time prospecting like a cold phone book?
Right. To the wrong people that you don't even know if they fit who you serve.
And the countless amount of times I've seen salespeople just put an activity into a Salesforce just to say they have activity. Like there's a lot of, that goes back to a lot of like, how work used to be, right? And we're seeing a change, a state of change with leadership, and the generationally, of course, like we're shifting very quickly into that. COVID has completely, shifted that as well. So we have leaders that still feel like in office means you're working.
Yep.
Activity on Salesforce means you're working, means you're calling people. Okay, cool. So it's just a numbers game now. It's just probability. Doesn't matter who you're reaching out to. Just like open the book and call.
Yeah.
Or we have leaders that just really understand there's more of a method and an orchestration that needs to happen, not just with activity and sales and marketing, but like with people themselves, because the way people have worked have changed. Like going back to Adam Peak, right? Going back to Adam. Let's use you as an example, Adam. Thank you so much for being an example for us. But imagine like there are so many, the world has shifted too, right? And there's so many more responsibilities and stresses in this world that people need to make extra money. We just need to have resources, right? Revenue streams. I kind of see leaders in companies that need to shift away. The NCAA has shifted, allowing athletes to make money off their name and likeness.
Oh, that could be that should be a podcast episode with somebody who does NIL deals.
We got let's talk to Austin. Let's talk to our buddy Austin.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Like if you were someone like Adam, or say you were someone like, who want to be sort of the creator like Adam is, and you were into a company and said, hey, yeah, cool. We understand that you are bringing so much value to our brand as a brand, but you're also bringing value to yourself as a personal brand. And whatever you do through your personal brand, that is yours to keep. You do a speaking engagement, you're still representing us. You're making a speaking fee, or you're doing an affiliate deal. Cool. You're making your revenue. You're not signing a deal with us that anything that you create in our company is going to be ours for, perpetual copyright. Yep. Can you imagine if you had a company that did that with like multiple Adam Peaks, right? To allow them to bring their personality and brand and influence into a company. The company will thrive. People like an Adam will thrive, revenue-wise, will thrive brand-wise. And who knows like how much more business can be brought on both ends. I think that's the sort of shift that needs to happen.
Well, and Carlo, it's even for me, like this might sound like a crazy example, but I hear all the time and people kind of laugh at it, but especially, and there are sales leaders that laugh at it, that believe that the salesperson doesn't matter, right? That's a whole nother conversation. And people don't buy, how do I want to say this? People don't buy from companies. They buy brands, yes. However, why do people go to Target instead of Walmart? The environment and the people. Why do people shop at Publix versus another grocery chain, food line, Food City, whatever?
Right.
The environment and the people, the quality of the brands that they're getting, the friendly service, the people and the environment, right? Which people are included in the environment. Chick-fil-A. Why do people love to go eat Chick-fil-A? Yes, their chicken is fire. It's awesome. But the reason why they go to Chick-fil-A instead of McDonald's is also because of the service, the people that are representing the brand in the interactions with the customers. And the brands and the companies who understand that, who build value into the person that is out there representing the brand of who they are, then the more business that will come, because that person's going to be evangelical about the purpose and the mission of the organization, and people are going to be attracted to that. And you know, that's, to me, I agree with you. I think companies are, I think there's a scarcity mindset that is often happening, which is why we're not focusing on bridging that gap between brand and marketing and sales, and helping people build brands so that, you know, they're building thought leadership and familiarity with the customers that they're going to be working with. The big brand isn't going to be working with those customers. The individuals are. And so how do we help those individuals build their trust in the industries that we can be? And marketing plays a huge part of that, in teaching them how to share the message in a way that is connecting and inviting to the right people who can buy, benefit, or influence the purchase of your product, service, or solution.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most formidable sales positions and opportunities I've had in my entire career was when I was trying to build a startup that was failing quickly. And my wife was like, you know, we got to go get a job. Like I literally walked into an Apple store on Michigan Avenue. A specialist came up to me and asked what she could do. And I said, I need a job. Like, I will work here part-time. Retail store.
Yep.
Not going to sugarcoat it, right? Retail. Got the job in retail. Took forever. Interview process was insane. Got the job as a part-time retail specialist at Apple, right? Within a few months, I started to move up into this place called Apple Retail Business, where they had we would call businesses and ask if I knew how to make phone calls. And, you know, one thing led to another. I stayed there for almost 4 years, but just seeing how they operate with the brand, and the brand fades away. Like, Apple fades away because what it does is just empowers people to do things. Like, the brand empowers people to be creative. It empowers people to be productive. It empowers people to be connected. The thing that blew me away the most was that there was a product called one-to-one that was $99 for an entire year if you were to buy a Mac, or I don't even know if you could buy it. You may have been able to buy it separately. Now, if you think of the margin of $99 a year to be able to book a one-on-one session with a creative for an hour to be taught whatever you want to be taught on a Mac, I don't think the ROI wasn't in that service. The ROI was building that person as the evangelist, to know that they provided so much value to me that there is no other place I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I would recommend a $2,000 computer over a $500 PC, because that's where they took care of me.
Yep.
It is unbelievable, the service and the support that you get, because you know it's solid. And I've learned so much about customer service, so much about customer feedback, so much about handling situations when people are mad. I mean, we can get to stories about people coming in and just livid about their computer, livid about their iPhone, right? And that, for another story, that's how I met Andy Mack. That's how I met Andy Mack, that we know today, that we work with at Daily Best. We'll get into that story later, but that was like 2007. I mean, it goes back. We'll get into that later. But anyways, yes, brands need to kind of understand that their number one asset is their people.
Yeah, the fitness industry, I think, is interesting, and maybe there's some guests from the fitness industry also. You know, I came from the fitness industry, and if you look at the fitness industry now, especially,
can I interrupt you? You came from it from a what perspective, though?
Well, okay, so
I'm trying to get at this guy. This guy used to competitively.
I used to do some bodybuilding back in the day. I was an exercise science major, you know, ran gyms and stuff, but yeah, the tan and the Speedos, right?
I love it. I love it.
I love to compete. But the fitness industry, what I think is really interesting is when you look on like other social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok, and you have all these fitness professionals that are coaches, and they're making millions of dollars coaches, and people from all over the world utilize their platform. Fitness clubs are now really starting to embrace those types of personalities and individual brands, and being like, hey, work out at my place. You know, show people that you're working out here. Let them know that you work out at Gold's Gym, because if you work out at Gold's Gym, then these people might work out at Gold's Gym. If you're using this type of equipment, that equipment's only at our clubs. They can come in there, and they're using the celebrity, or the influence, if you will, influencer marketing. And it's crazy when we look at influencer marketing. How can influencer marketing play a part in B2B sales? And I think there's a way to do that.
Yeah. That's I mean, we can get into that industry because there's so much opportunity there in your background. I mean, hey, anyone who's listening from the fitness industry, you know, Golds, or, you know, you name it, right? You know what I would do? Here's my marketing tidbit for them. I would hire today an in-house videographer.
Yep. That's all they do.
Offer a package service along with your membership, a VIP service where you can go and work out, and you can get, you know, you could secure an hour that you would get someone to document you doing whatever your thing is, and have it social media ready.
Yep.
As part of your membership.
Yep.
You're welcome. You can take that. Hopefully someone will do that, because I will think that
industry
will completely can you imagine?
And hey, it's a premium service.
Premium.
It is a premium service. But I tell you what, but look, there's when you look at the real disruptors in industry, right? When you look at things like Uber and Facebook, and, you know, you name these other industries that have come out and radically changed and disrupted certain industries by really only changing the perspective of which the industry is working from, right? Uber didn't change the taxi industry because now they're delivering people a different way. They just changed the perspective of how it's done. And so it created this whole blue ocean strategy, right? If more B2B companies, especially in, you know, some of the things that we work a lot in, which is higher education, distribution of, you know, whether that's laundry equipment, electrical, packaging, janitorial, plumbing, whatever the distribution industry is, you know, software, B2B sales, manufacturing, all of these different areas and industries, if they really started taking a look at some of these other industries that are killing it, and what they're doing to connect with the people that again could buy, benefit, or influence, right? Then I think that you would start seeing a lot more creativity in how sales and marketing can work together to ultimately accomplish the goal of the organizations, which is to drive revenue.
Right. And the opportunity, you can just take a look at any any sort of strategy from a B2B or even a B2C and sort of borrow that strategy, how they're engaging customers, right? I think
Yep.
that's because it's so saturated right now with. I saw an interesting stat. It was like I was trying to figure out like what percentage of comments or social media out there was either negative or positive, and I'm like, okay, it's got to be so negative out there, like 'cause all you see is negative. Surprisingly, I'll pull the stats somewhere. Maybe we'll put it in the notes, but it was like out of like 11 billion like messages they've they've combed through, people that actually commented, it was even like almost at 6% positive, 6% negative. But guess what? The majority of people that are on social media are passive.
Mm-hmm.
They're just consuming. They're just literally scrolling and consuming and consuming and consuming and consuming. Like they don't necessarily comment. But what that tells you is that there are people out there that are looking to get engaged, right? When they comment because they're engaged, they're either triggered, they want to say something positive, they want to say something negative, they're bothered or they're inspired,
Yep.
right? So what side are you going to be on? How are you going to engage the person that is just passively scrolling for the majority of this time? Like, which means that majority of things like advertising, it's not really it's working from a awareness standpoint, perhaps, and maybe just blasting out a generalized message, but it's not converting, right? It's not. There's no ROI. It's hard to get ROI on like views, and even if they clicked, they'd have to go directly to your website. They'd have to like fill out a form, purchase
Yep.
something, put it in a cart. Yes, there's ways to try to get to figure out what the attribution looks like, but that's the number one. That is so hard for a marketer these days.
Yeah. And
Like,
but
where
that's
does
all
it come from? It
inbound.
comes from everywhere, right?
Right.
Right.
That's all inbound. That's a lot to hopefully get a few, right? And that's where I
Well,
think
I would say that's out. So I would say that's outbound. Like we're pushing out
yes.
messages, right? So
Yes.
and then we're advertising is meant to distract people, I believe, and what a lot of marketers have said. And then the strategy now is inbound is education and entertainment
Yes.
to engage.
Well, and direct versus indirect, right?
Exactly. Right.
And helping empower people within your organizations that are on social media that are consuming to get off the stinking couch, get out of the bleachers and get into the game. We get so scared about different things like social media and messaging on LinkedIn and all of these different things.
Yeah.
One,
Who's
because we
doing
don't,
what? Who's doing that? Yeah.
yeah, or we use it to stalk our competition or stalk our customers. And the reality of the situation is that if companies started taking the amount of money that they spend on television advertisement or Google ad
Conferences.
conferences, trade shows, Google AdWords, SEO optimization, all of those things are important. But if they take some of that money that they're allocating to those things and invest it into the people to teach them how to use all of these different avenues that they have to connect with their ideal customers and how to build a brand that create an individual brand that creates trust and they people then are going to be banging down your doors, and it's going to be the right people that are wanting to come work with you, not just this casting this huge net and hoping that we catch them. It is literally getting very direct, again, human to human marketing, working marketing, empowering salespeople and working through salespeople to connect with their customers so that they can do what they do best, which is to identify the goals, challenges, and pains of their customers, and then how they can help either achieve those goals, overcome those challenges, or alleviate those pains through the products, services, or solutions. How can marketing and sales work together to empower salespeople to do that better, to be more effective, to be more efficient? And if they realize that the biggest part of their employee turnover when it comes to their sales teams isn't because they're hiring the wrong salespeople. It's not because the salespeople aren't good enough to go out there. it's literally, we train them on how to identify pain and to bring value using products and to and how to close sales, but we don't do a great job of teaching our people how to generate the right conversations with the right people. We just expect that they'll do the right activity. And we're missing a huge piece of helping our salespeople be successful. The more we help our salespeople be successful, the longer those salespeople stay in organizations, which means they're able to cultivate even stronger relationships with their customers, which means added revenue in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's where the challenge for both marketing and sales is that over time, even now with technology, right? The responsibilities that are put upon salespeople have become much more. The responsibilities of marketing has become much more, right? And sales, not only should you close deals with people that want to talk to you, you should go prospect now and figure out new markets and new verticals. Okay, that's a whole different ballgame, right? Maybe that they want to lean on marketing to do that, right? Okay, cool. Marketing should try to do that. Okay, cool. Marketing, go try to look at new verticals. Okay, well, also marketing, we want to do new pieces of content. We want to be on social media. We want to. The responsibilities have just layered over salespeople and marketers, where in fact they get so frustrated that they're like, "Forget it. I'm just going to work in my own silo."
Yep.
And not even worry about it. Whereas what we're trying to uncover is like, what can we leverage technology for, right?
Yep.
How can we scale that and de-stress a lot of things we're trying to figure out as humans, which we cannot do, and how do we allow salespeople to do what they do best, which is to have conversations with the right people that want to talk to you, because you can handle the objections, right, and be able to close the deal that is good for the company.
Well, and it's yes. And it's also, I think too, and this might be a really interesting topic to have a conversation with someone about. How do we help create the mindset shift within organizations and within, the industries that I come from, especially in manufacturing, in the packaging industry, working in some of these different verticals? Oftentimes in marketing, the conversation is all around the product and the bells and whistles and the features and benefits and all of those buzzwords and keywords that they make me vomit in my mouth. It's like, it's not yes, our product has to be quality and all those things, but if we're only doing our sales and marketing through the product, and we think that's the differentiator, that's why companies are losing. It's not about your product. It's about how are you communicating the good news of how you serve the people that you created your products to help solve their problems. How can you share that with people? It's not the product. It's what are they facing? What are their challenges? What are their issues? What keeps them up at night? And how can marketing and sales come together to be able to bring good news to these people and be like, hey, your sleepless nights, you don't have to have them anymore. Those stressful days at work, that anxiety, that worry, that fear, you don't have to be like that anymore, because we're here to help you. And this is how we do it. And this is our mission and our purpose. The product comes later. How, this is something I learned that I think has really changed a lot of how I present and sell. Also, when I've been in selling situations, is how can I make my purpose my customer's purpose? So whatever my customer's purpose is and what they do and who they want to serve, how can I make my purpose should be helping them accomplish their purpose. And how we do that is through understanding them, what their goals, challenges, and pains are, and then how we can help them with our gifts, talents, and skills paired with our products, services, or solutions. That's if we start looking at sales and marketing in a collaboration and how we share that message, it will change the game of your organization.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I had to go back to my experience at Apple, when you're on the floor with someone who wants to look at this shiny new computer and they're like, "Oh, I would love to get this one," and you're actually asking why and like, what do you envision using it for? And they get into they want to be a photographer or they want to be a designer or they want to just have connectivity with their family members, right? The product is gonna get tied into whatever their challenges is their challenge, but you have to uncover what the challenge is in the beginning, right? So
Yeah.
that they come out happy at the end.
We
So
never
it's just
asked
really
we never asked people in the fitness industry, like when I was doing personal training or whatever, the question was never, you would ask maybe eventually, but the thing that the conversation that triggered the buying response wasn't, hey, can I show you my leg press and how awesome my dumbbells are?
right.
It's not it. And it wasn't even, hey, how much weight do you want to lose? Right?
Mm,
That those questions didn't elicit a buying response. What does and what did was connecting with the person. Hey, why is getting in shape so important to you? Oh, you have kids? Oh, you get out of breath when you're pushing your kid on the swing. This is a true story, by the way. This is true conversation. So you get out of breath when you're pushing your kid on the swing in the playground.
mm,
Why does that bother you so much?
yeah.
If it's like that now, if you don't do anything about it, what is your future going to look like?
Yeah.
What have you
Exactly.
also, and it's connecting with them on a personal level to understand, where do I need to show them that I can help them? Where are they really hurting that? And you can say, well, that's sales 101. Yeah, it is. But we can't lose the sincerity behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the sincerity, the authenticity of what we see today in marketing and sales is has gotten so far off from that.
Yep.
Even in influencer marketing, I mean, you just really don't know what's the authentic viewpoint anymore of an influencer or whatever you call it to promote a product, right? I think we're at that point again where we're hitting this really interesting stride of who do I trust? Is just it's back to trust marketing. Like, how are we authentically telling our story and are we being honest about it?
News anchors. We need a news anchor on
Right.
to talk about media and trust in media. Ooh, that's interesting.
That's a heavy one.
But it can make you understand that fight for trust. Like all the new
Yeah.
big news medias, they're fighting for people's trust.
Yeah.
Who's telling the
Yeah.
truth?
Yeah. Who's bending over the truth to get attention, right? It's the fight for attention, right? And
Yep.
For me personally, I don't know who I trust when it comes to influencers or marketing or products anymore because I just don't. Everyone's sponsored by something by X, so it's an interesting place to be in. It's a exciting place for creators who have the following and can make that money, right?
Yep.
How sustainable is that? I don't know. It's the same thing with advertising. It's everywhere. You're remarketed everything. But it has to come down to human to human, direct to direct, communication to the right person, to the right profile, to the right audience, right? We're going back to that again, right? Marketers, we have to understand let me back up. If you know your audience and who you're targeting, that's great. You can really like engage with that, double down on that, really just continue to engage in that market. If you don't know, say for a startup, I think that's where you need to start to uncover, well, who is my target audience? What verticals are they in? What do they
Yep.
love? And that's a whole different strategy and
Yep.
way to go about things.
And marketing is so good at that. And that's where I think as salespeople, we miss the expertise that marketing can bring in how we can do our job better. Marketing understands, a lot of marketing professionals and a lot of marketing leaders understand the idea of building that avatar, that ideal customer profile, that ideal customer persona, right? Of who we serve, all the demographics, the psychographics, the all of the different variables that go into it, that where they can really pinpoint, okay, these are the people that we can serve. That message is not always cascaded down to sales to help them understand how do they identify those types of companies in the markets that they serve, right? In the regions that they serve, the areas that they serve. And that's something in salespeople we're missing, because a lot of salespeople spend a lot of time going out and doing new customer acquisition activities. So prospecting, cold calling, making phone calls, stopping by places, knocking on doors. And they're doing it at places that they think, like, true story. When I first got into sales and I was driving around, this guy by the name of Danny Green up in Morristown, Tennessee. I was a territory manager for a janitorial supply and packaging sales company. And I was going through training. I was riding with Danny, and we were going cold calling, and I was like, oh, well, let's stop by that place. And Danny goes, I don't know, man, that they don't have many cars out in the parking lot. And that, it's a small building. It just doesn't look like that, probably not a good customer of us. Right. And then we drove to this other place that had a lot more. These were the things that he determined. Did it look like they manufactured something and could ship stuff, or that they could buy janitorial supplies? And are there enough cars in the parking lot where they might buy more than the average person? That was how I was to identify my customers. Well, come to find out, that little place that we drove by was, shout out, Johnson City Custom Framing. And Johnson City Custom Framing, when I went in there, and there was like 4 cars in the parking lot, they looked like a rundown shack. They did about $90,000 worth of business on 3 products with me. They were a perfect customer. Right. And I shipped them pallet loads at a time. So I direct shipped everything. I didn't even touch it, which means my margin was even greater. But because I was being taught by another salesperson as someone who could train new salespeople, that the things that I needed to look for based on whether or not that company was a good fit was the size of the building and the amount of cars in the parking lot. That's what we're training our salespeople today. That's why we hire salespeople that we think are going to be so incredible and they're going to be so awesome. And when they leave for a better job, or they leave for more money because they're not making commissions or bonuses at your company, it's because that's the type of training they're receiving out in the field by people who have never been taught how to strategically open and target new business in their markets. And it's because they don't understand the importance of building out the ideal customer profile that marketing does. That's a big part of what marketing does when they're determining how to communicate and the best avenues to communicate to their customers.
Yeah. And a lot of those learnings are passed, right? They're passed on without much, and then probably not to fault of Danny, right? It may be
no, he was taught that.
Yeah, he was taught that, and it's like maybe it's generationally, like how we look at that kind of passed on generation or generation.
And he was successful too. That's the thing. He was a successful salesperson. So because he was successful and that's how he was trained, then obviously he should train me, because and here's the thing.
Success looks like, to him. Yeah.
But how much failure led to that success? And I get it, failure leads to success, but did he incur more failure than what he had to because he didn't have a real process? I literally, as we were on the phone, as we're doing this, I got a text message from a guy that I met through LinkedIn that said, hey man, I really need to have a conversation with you. I desperately need help understanding who my customers are and how to cold call. Just got the text message. People are in desperate need to understand how to find the people that they can work with more, because, and it all goes back to how can salespeople do what they're supposed to do so they have their jobs, they make their bonuses, and they can take care of their families, right? I know that's a general statement from a family perspective, but it's how can they do the things in the life that they want to do and make the money to be able to do it. And I just see us being able to create this whole new place to where sales and marketing can work together, and we can help our teammates in sales become more successful. And in turn, marketing will become more successful, because that feedback loop and understanding what's the customer dynamics even more once we get in and build relationships with our ideal customers.
Right.
Now, here's something I wrote this down. This should be an episode. Will B2B companies ever embrace affiliate marketing? So would a manufacturer of like a piece of equipment ever embrace affiliate marketing, where another company does a podcast or whatever and has their equipment in the background showing how awesome it is. I don't know, but I think it's interesting. I think there's so many ways that marketing and sales can work together to come up with new creative ideas and how to build value in how they serve. It's just a matter of, can we be open and minded enough to maybe try some of those things? And we're at an hour now, which you and I said initially we're going to be keeping the podcast at 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes if we get a little long-winded with customers. But on this one, for this one, and we'll just, we'll start closing out here. It's just all of these things that we've been talking about. These are the reasons why we want to do this podcast. This is a reason why we believe this conversation needs to be having, and that bridge between sales and marketing needs to be built so that other people out there can learn how to collaborate together better to help accelerate the achieving of the goals of the organization. And I think I don't know if a lot of people out there doing and having this type of conversation as intentional about how can we help sales and marketing work together better.
Yeah, and I think this is where we hope to uncover that this entire season and seasons to come, and not just from our own perspective and our own mouths, but from seasoned folks on both sides of the table to come together and potentially build a sort of recipe that can be repeatable across different verticals and practices. And I think that's the hope that we want to go after. But yeah, we've uncovered a lot of different places to dig deeper.
And we haven't even talked about sales and marketing and behavioral health or higher education and recruitment for graduate programs or for, behavioral health programs and all of these other different things that these non-traditional B2B and non-traditional B2C, they're all looking for ways to reach out and touch the people that might benefit from what they're doing and bring more value to their lives and help them achieve those different goals. And so you've got all of these different industries too that aren't traditionally thought of from a sales and marketing perspective and strategies and tactics that I think that when we bring them into this type of conversation, we can help help colleges learn how to increase recruitment into graduate level programs or whatever that looks like. That is sales and marketing. How are you communicating what you do and who you serve to the people who could most benefit? And I think, these will be some interesting conversations and we get to learn along the way.
Yeah, and my last thing is that we're not blinded by the fact that we're in a really interesting place in our economy, right? From a job perspective, from a perspective of a lot of people letting folks go. People are stressed out to try to make revenue, to create revenue, to get efficient, to get to scale. And there's just a really interesting an opportunity to leverage technology, to leverage marketing and sales to get to ROI faster so that we can continue to do the things that we need to do. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. And that's why we're here to help spread the good news. There's a way to do it. What do they say? The obstacle is the way, right? And the obstacle is what it is. How do we help companies grow revenue? And we believe we can help them do that through helping sales and marketing collaborate together better. And so, look, we're really excited about this podcast. Carlo and I this is a dream of he and I to work together to be able to do this type of stuff together. And man, I'm so incredibly pumped. So look, share, the podcast. If you have people that you think would be great guests, if you think there's topics that you would love us to cover from a sales and marketing perspective, if any of those things, we want to hear from you. This is our podcast. We're learning, but it's your podcast also. We want to know what you want to learn about, how we can help you. So let us know, share with a friend if you found this valuable. Look, we appreciate you guys, and stay tuned for more episodes of the Good News Podcast, where we are going to help bridge the gap between sales and marketing through building a community and helping you share the good news to those you serve.